friends, my name is Jake. Welcome to Canadian Cutting Edge, and today we've got a knife that I thought I reviewed last year. I even dyed the handle scales already. You saw that on the dye video that I did a couple months ago. What is it, 3 months ago now? This is the Sencut NECHES. I don't know how to pronounce it properly. That's how I'm pronouncing it. This is a smaller knife, yet it's a bit over 3 inches in the blade, full flat grind, a flipper knife, liner lock. You get it in G10. You can also get it with micarta. And what is it, 9CR18, I believe? Where does it say on here? Well, check your notes, Jake. 10CR15 COMOV, which is VG10 basically. So no, not 9CR18. It's basically VG10. And the price point on this thing is $52.99 US. That's before discount with coupon code CCE at White Mountain Knives. That's $47.69 US. So for basically VG10, which is what 10CR50 COMOV is, that's a pretty good price. Is the knife worth it? I really think it is, and I want to show you why I think that. Does it have cons? Well, everything's got cons. We're going to take it apart. We're going to go over the entire thing. So come over to the tabletop. We're going to take a good close look at this thing. If you're one of my channel supporters, I appreciate your help very, very much. I will be getting a knife sale ready for you guys. And then after my supporters have had at the sale for 2 days, whatever's left will go on sale to the general public, whoever watches my videos. So stay tuned to Canadian Cutting Edge. This will happen later on next week. So about a week from now, actually, roughly. At least for my supporters, and then 2 days after for everyone else. I already said that part, didn't I? Well, let's start at the tabletop already. Let's go. So I decided to use the gray background just to show it off a bit better. Against the blue, this purple sort of looks a bit washed out. It's a little bit washed out looking as it is. But, you know, I wanted to go for sort of this, you know, I don't want to attract a load of attention with this dye job, and I really like how it looks. Flat slab G10, we've got a chamfer all the way around, so that's quite nicely done. Like I said, open pillar construction. We've got the hourglass shape right there for these pillars, and a thin hourglass shaped lanyard pin right there. I really like that. No hole needed. When you've got the knife in your hand, you know, the paracord doesn't bother you back here. It just comes straight out the back, so I quite like that. Well done. T8 screws everywhere, so that's quite nice. Let's grab a T8 driver. This is a WEHA driver, and take a look here. Just the tiniest bit of play there. I think these have just a little bit more play than those do, and the T6s are very snug fit. Not so snug that it's a problem, just a nice snug fit T6. So those flush screws are less likely to strip out than mini, but they are flush screws and they are T6 size, so be careful with your T6 screws. The basic overall shape of the handle, it's not quite parallel lines. It's a bit wider here than it is here, but pretty much the same. Very comfortable in hand. We'll talk about more details of it later on, but let's take a look at the blade first. We've got a drop point blade, and the dropping starts almost immediately coming down along. Fairly fine point, and then a long curving edge, a little bit of a straight section back here, full flat grind, and then an edge grind. Isn't sharpened terribly well. From the factory, they didn't do a good job sharpening this, but it's okay. I measured the sharpness before I did my testing. I went and found the old record sheet that I wrote up about it. And yeah, I'll talk about that a little bit later on. It's just a good shape. Like this shape blade cuts and slices and pierces very, very well. We've got a bit of a chamfer on the side of the blade, and that comes all the way to about there. So the tip of the blade, it's pretty strong behind that tip, but it is, you know, with that narrow angle right there coming to the tip, that tip is not super strong, so do be careful with it. What steel do we have on here? Well, like I said in the intro, right up there, it says 10CR18 COMOV, which is basically VG10, which I quite like for this knife, especially at the price point. That's quite nice indeed. Big badging, sure, not too fond of it. On this side, the Sencut's a little bit too big. On here, You know, the badging's black on this side. The badging for the steel type is basically white or silver colored. But I like this blade. I'm quite happy with it. I still haven't sharpened this myself yet. Once I do, I'm sure it's going to cut and slice a whole lot better than it does already, and it already does quite well. Coming back over here, the sharpener's choil. It's a little bit smaller than I prefer, but it's big enough, so no problems there. The jimping on the spine, really good jimping. It's aggressive enough to be very happy with it. I just wish it came out a little bit further, maybe 3 more little, notches cut into it would have been perfect, but it's not bad. And then looking down along the spine of the handle, you don't see a stop pin. We've got a captured stop pin in there, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. We've got like those T8 pivot screws, like I said, they are free spinning. We will take it apart in a minute. Coming back here, the pocket clip. It's a nice deep carry pocket clip. Comes right to the end. It's got a little bit of a flat section up there. Lots of holes in it. It's just steel. It's nothing special. It's got sort of a bead blast finish to that. While this is satin, looks okay. The liners are just slightly exposed, but they're rounded over. They feel soft to the touch, like no sharp, hard edges or anything. Nicely done. Good skeletonizing in there too. Oh, the balance point. Let me see that right there. That's the balance point on this thing. I do wish it was closer to the pivot pin. It's not terrible though. So we talked about all of that stuff. Let's demonstrate the pocket clip before we get too far ahead of ourselves. So let's take a look at it going into a pocket. Climbs over pretty much every time. You just go put it in, climbs over the edge, put it in. This one's holding on quite tightly here. It's got lots of free space in there, so the pants could be thicker and it would still fit. Just holding right there. It hides in there quite well. Happy with that pocket clip. Not an issue there with that thing. Flipper. It's got jimping all the way up, and not all the way around it, but up the front and across, so it makes it really easy for your finger to engage and just pull that thing back. The detent on this thing is dialed in, and those ceramic ball bearings really help it just to fly out, so I'm very happy with that flipper. Lockup, let's take a look at that. Lockup is perfect. It's exactly where I like it to be on a brand new knife. Loads of room to wear over and yet fully engaged. No blade play side to side, up and down, well done. The alignment when it's closed, pretty much right down the middle as well. So they did a good job with that. The lock release, there's a little bit of a cutaway here. It's not like a circle or a radius curved in here, but just slightly exposed with some jimping on the side of that. I wish there was a little bit more access to there. My hands are just barely in the extra large range, and sometimes my thumb just doesn't quite grip it. Maybe my fingers are a little bit too big or not. I don't know. I just wish there was a little bit bigger access to that, but it works quite well. In my left hand, I can just play with it if I want to, and in my right hand as well. It's easy to be fidgety. Quite well done. Before we take it apart, I got to show you a big con. At least to me, it's a big con. Look at this. Look at that. With that captured stop pin, you can see the stop pin right there. When the blade is opened and closed, it sticks out past the end of the knife handle, which means they had to take away the liner there and just have it wide open. That's a lint magnet. In my opinion, it's a lint magnet. It's like this G10's not too weak here. I'm not concerned about the G10, breaking or anything. It's just how open that is, and it allows stuff to much more easily get in there, in my opinion. So I don't like that. When you look at the website and look at the knives, you see a picture like that. You might see a picture, like that. You might see a picture like that. But they never take a picture like that to show you that that's what they did there. And I wish they would. Let me take it apart and show you how it's constructed now. Here it is taken apart. The screws came out quite easily. There's a little bit of blue on there for Loctite, but it's not hard to take these apart. So I showed you that before. Here's the lanyard pin, and it goes in back here, and it sits in that hole right there too. Hourglass shaped pins, nicely done. We've got ceramic ball bearings in phosphor bronze cages. Well done. Ceramic detent ball. There's the open front that I talked about before. A lot of skeletonizing, a little bit over here too. That's a little bit of a relief cut, you know, to help the spring for the lock arm. So that's one of the reasons that's there. And then here's the blade. We've got the stop pin right there in the blade. And it's a little bit dirty. It's because I've actually been using this thing a fair bit. And because I really like it. It's a good, useful blade shape. Very simply made, sturdy, solid. Oh, the pin definitely is free spinning, but I had no problem taking it apart. And that's how it's made. Time to go over all the measurement specs and everything like that. How much does this thing weigh? It's 81 grams, 2.86 ounces. Now that's after I dyed it. So it might have been 80.9 grams. I don't know. The dyeing must have added some molecules to it. But yeah, that's pretty much the weight. Under 3 ounces for certain. The factory sharpness, and yes, I found the records from when I measured it when I first got it delivered. 220 bests. Not great, but far from bad. So that's okay. Cutting edge length, 83.5 millimeters, 3.29 inches. So it's not so close to 2 inches to be, you know, annoying that it's, you know, over 2 inches. But yeah, it's over 3¼ inches long. So that's quite good, at least on the cutting edge. Blade length is a little bit less because the handle comes forward. 81.2 millimeters, 3.2 inches even. So still a good amount over 3 inches. The thickness of the blade up here at the flats, 2.91 millimeters, 0.1145. So a little over 1/10 of an inch. Blade depth, it keeps getting bigger all the way up to the heel of the blade. 21.7 millimeters this way, that's 0.85 of an inch. The thickness behind the grind, measured in 3 places, the average is 0.38 millimeters, 15/1000 of an inch. That helps it a lot with how well it cuts. Grind angles, well, that does not help it very much. This side's got a grind angle average of 29.8. The average on this side is 27.3. Not so good. Started here at the heel at 28.6, ended at 26.1, 2.5 degrees of change along the length. This side started at 28.7 degrees here and went to 31.0 degrees up here. That's 2.3 degrees of change. So yeah, it's not well sharpened, but it's got that thinness going for it. With this steel, I'd sharpen it 18 degrees per side, maybe less, probably less. Because, you know, I'm a city boy. I wouldn't, if I was going to use this in the countryside, cutting through hard things, you know, if I was a rancher and I'm cutting through baling twine all the time or something, I might give it a, you know, a bigger angle. But for my purposes as a urban ODYSEE kind of thing, I think I'd give it a nice shallow grind. Back to the measurements. The handle length, 105.6 millimeters, 4.16 inches. The grip area between my thumbs is about 8.5 centimeters, about 3 1/3 inches. The thickness of the handle on the G10 right here, 11.8 millimeters, 0.465 of an inch. The handle depth this way, like I said, it's widest at the end of the handle. So right up here, it is 21.1 millimeters, 0.83 of an inch. And the knife depth when it's closed, is that the biggest point? Well, yes, but this is the same. So that distance and that distance is the same. 25.9 millimeters, 1.02 inches. And the total length with the blade deployed is about 187 millimeters, 7.36 inches. Going over the price again, like I said, $52.99, take off 10%, $47.69 US for this at White Mountain Knives. Make sure you use discount code CCE. I think they're all sold out. I might be wrong, but they're going to get more stock. There's a notify me option over there for you to click the notify me, put your email address and click the notify me. They'll email you when it's there. Right now, House of Knives in Canada, houseofknives.ca has got these in stock. I didn't find them at Warriors Wonders, didn't find them at Integrity Knives, didn't find them other than, you know, House of Knives, and they've got a decent price. They got a sale going on, $69.99 for the G10 version and $71.99 Canadian, you know, for the micarta version, which isn't bad because the US price for this, you know, being $47.69 in Canadian dollars, that's about $64. So yes, it costs more in Canada, but it's not an awful lot more in Canada. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. You know, once the sale's over, then the price difference is going to get higher. So if you're in Canada and you like this and you're watching this when the video first comes out, there you go. Go to House of Knives and get one of these. Otherwise, you know, if you're in the United States or whatever, you know, I think the best price I found was at White Mountain Knives. Let's go over the pros and cons and summary and all that stuff of this thing. Great action. One of my favorite things about this thing is how smooth the pivot is and how the detent is very well dialed in. Very happy with that indeed. Comfortable in the hand, good sized knife, very nice shape on the blade, very good thinness for cutting, very nice tip for piercing. Slicing and cutting is quite well done. Gripping this thing, it's quite comfortable. It's nothing super grippy or anything. I wish there was a little bit more grip, you know, a little more jimping up here, but that's okay. I like the lanyard pin back here, nice open pillar construction. Balance point, I wish was a little bit different. Pocket clip though, quite good. I don't like this open front. I don't like that at all, but that's not enough reason for me to reject the knife. I just really don't like that. I wish that they would not use T6 screws, and I wish they'd make a D-shaped non-free spinning, or however non-free spinning pivot pin. So I don't like that, but it's not a deal breaker. You know, I don't like T6, but not a deal breaker. Don't like this open up here, not a deal breaker. Like, there's no, for me, real deal breakers here, although if I was designing this, I'd make some changes. Thanks again to my supporters. You guys are stunning. I really appreciate your help. And to everyone, please leave a comment down below. Do you have one of these? What do you think of it? Like, share, comment, and subscribe. Those things really do make a difference. I have very few people that, from the amount of people that watch my videos, not very many people subscribe. So if you've watched this far and you haven't subscribed yet, I think I've earned your subscription. So please hit that subscribe button and that notification window. Thank you. And remember, friends, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.